Greetings, netizens of YouTube.
Hi, SJW 101, the political gamer. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it, people?
Since I deemed fit to give a message to feminists, please click on my face if you haven't seen it. It's only fair that I give anti-feminists the benefit of my advice.
Right, well, I'll just go and organise my funeral then.
This is my message to anti-feminists.
Well, by all means, continue.
I'm going to address three broad subcategories of people here. The first grouping I'm going to refer to are non-feminists, which hold a critical position of feminism, but who are open to reason.
So I see what you're doing here. You're basically saying that these people who do not consider themselves feminists, but aren't necessarily anti-feminists, but just a little bit critical, are the ones who are open to reason. You're basically saying that one group of people are open to reason because they are more neutral than another group, but because another group styles themselves as anti-feminists or what have you, they're not open to reason because of that, because what they label themselves as. When we've never said that we're not open to reason and that we don't want to discuss our ideas with you. It's just that you guys don't want to talk to us. So what's the point in being open with people who don't want to be open back to us? We're not saying that you're inherently wrong. I mean, all we're asking for is prove yourselves right and prove us wrong. I fail to see how that's not being open to reason. We want the discourse, you don't. That's how it goes, SJW, and you know it.
Please try to remember that many feminists don't deny your concerns. It is possible to find common ground.
Really? Who? I only know of two that I can think of. Ross Bugden, I forgot his name. He's an Irish YouTuber. And Michaela B. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your names, people, at the moment. I know those two who are open to discourse. And then you've got someone who is open to talk to people, but is not necessarily here for peace. And that, of course, is Kevin Logan. But hey, what do I know? But apparently it's us who can't reason, who aren't open to reason. Only these non-feminists who you define as people who are basically neutral, but it's pretty vague. But that still doesn't change the fact that the vast majority of feminists and social justice warriors don't want a debate. They don't want discourse. They want to shut it down. Because they know as soon as they enter that arena, they're not going to survive.
There are issues of agreement such as male homelessness, male incarceration, or paternity leave that can be reached.
But I don't see these feminists actually discussing it. I hear them mentioning it. Garrett mentioned it once. You have just mentioned it now, but you never actually come to us to discuss it. You just paper over the problems and say, yeah, but women's problems are worse. You don't even try to see what egalitarians do and treat every problem as seriously as they should be, which is the same. But no, we can't be having that.
Many feminists will agree that radical feminism and certain individual feminists are not helping if you engage in the right spirit. Practice nuance and don't be confrontational.
Yes, and you practice such nuance in that video that Wasley responded to, where you were basically taking Milo Yiannopoulos out of context and calling him a paedophile enabler when he wasn't doing any of the sort. But hey, you're nuanced. You're not like those other feminists who aren't. Yeah.
This doesn't mean you have to change your position. It simply means that you recognize reality and create the conditions for a useful discussion.
Why are you telling us this? We're not the ones who needed to be reminded of about reality. You do. Stop trying to project.
To take an example.
Of course, Sargon. It had to be Sargon, didn't it? It had to be the guys you love to talk about so much because you love him so much, obviously. But hey, go on, continue.
Do not deny that there is a wage gap, or talk about the wage gap myth.
Sargon doesn't deny there's a gap. He denies there is a wage gap, and it's actually an earnings gap, because every time people discuss the wage gap, they talk about earnings, and it's not about the wages, because as we know, it is against the law to pay anybody differently from their sex, race, etc, etc. Men and women earn differently because they work different hours or also work different jobs. That's what he's talking about. Stop being dishonest and stop trying to peddle this myth, okay? We talk about it for a reason, because it's misinformation being spread.
There is a wage gap.
It's an earnings gap. It is against the law in our country to pay someone differently because of their gender. Did you not remember? Oh wait, we're probably a bit too young to actually remember the Equal Pay Act coming into effect. But it's illegal. There is no wage gap. It's an earnings gap.
You are free to debate the extent of the gap with evidence and to postulate why that might be. But when you deny the most basic facts, it shows you aren't really interested in debate at all.
But we do use facts, logic and statistics, yet you still peddle the myth. We don't deny there's a gap. We just deny what the gap is. It's not rocket science, it's not hard to believe. The only people here denying the facts and the statistics and the logic, etc. is you. And by your logic, and by what you're accusing of us, you're the ones not interested in debate, because you will push this and say, this is fact, it's undebatable. And if you debate this, you're a misogynist. Which is ludicrous. So please, again, stop the projecting and stop lying, okay? You know what we do, you know what these people are doing, and that little circle, is that meant to be because it's popular, therefore it's wrong? I'm trying to work that out there, SJW.
That you're ignorant, or that you belong in the extremist anti-feminist or MRA camp.
We're not being ignorant. I can only think of one side that is being ignorant, because there's one side who isn't actually listening to what we have to say. They're just putting their fingers in their ears and shouting la la la. And I could just go and say that, oh, that means they must be ignorant and part of the radfem, turf, swerf stuff, what have you. But I won't. But then again, there's only one person here who's projecting, so let's continue, people. It's basically be repeating the same thing that I said before.
In which case you will not be taken seriously.
So by debating what this gap actually is, and using facts and statistics, we won't be taken seriously. Yeah, and you're totally not taken seriously by basically saying that we're wrong, and this is it, it's a wage gap, there's no debate about this, but then saying that there is a debate, but then you will not take us seriously when we put forth better evidence. Because then again, there's a reason why only 8% of people identify as feminists in the UK.
To take another example, blanket statements about feminism being unnecessary. The debate about the necessity of feminism in the West is arguable, but there is no question that feminism is necessary in the majority of countries around the world.
How exactly is that a blanket statement by saying it's not necessary in the West, and hell, not even necessary elsewhere? Because we all see what you people like to do nowadays, what you like to push for, and I don't think those societies need that.
In online discussions, one might get plenty of support and backslapping, but you surely would know not to make generalised statements like that in real life.
And you're not generalising us right now? Even though you've labelled us all in 3 vague terms which are all synonymous with each other. Yeah, right, sure. And it's not like feminists won't go and label anyone who disagrees with them as a misogynist and MRA, and they say this, they say that, you know, or they're just a bunch of whiny neckbeard fedora wearers who just complain about women, and MRAs don't do anything, anti-feminists don't do anything, blah 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 blah. Yeah, you totally haven't done that before, your friends haven't done that before, and other feminists totally haven't done that before. It's us who generalise people, but when you do it, it's totally okay, but when we do it, it's totally wrong, how dare you? Double standards, double standards, double standards.
An extra couple of words showing capability of nuanced understanding isn't too much to ask, is it?
I could ask the exact same from you, SJW 101, but you don't want to give it.
The fact that certain YouTubers regularly make these types of ignorant statements does not make it true.
Come on, SJW 101. Name names, don't do a teal day.
When you trot out these blanket statements, you aren't actually thinking for yourself. Rather, you are inadvertently parroting a clickbait headline.
I need the citations on what these blanket statements actually are and how that makes you unable to think for yourself. I mean, just because you can't think for yourself, and because your whole argument here so far is that just admit that we're right and therefore the debate will happen, maybe so, doesn't mean that we think that. I don't think your logical processes are working today, I think you need to recharge the batteries.
Or a statement made largely for entertainment or shock purposes to a partisan audience.
Oh, so we're only in it for the money, are we? Yeah, and that's not what Bewildered Ape allegedly claims to do and what Jenny McDermott wants to do. Yeah, we're all just in it for the money. We hate on the women's for the money. Yeah.
I would request that you consider abandoning anti-feminism.
Oh, using Wikipedia as a source. Isn't that cute? Did your teachers ever tell you not to use Wikipedia as a source, just out of interest? And, well, so what if we're ideologically opposed to feminism? Why is it that because it's ideological, we have to abandon it? Why should we abandon it? So are you saying that we have to abandon this label in order to talk to you? Or if we abandon the label, you will then talk to us? Nonsense. No, this is why I have an issue with this video and people like Kevin Logan and you. You're not actually interested in a dialogue unless it suits you. Unless we bow down to your demands. And quite frankly, what's the point in making this video if you're only going to parrot what you all have been parroting for the last 40 years?
Both in name and in mindset.
Stop thinking that way, because I don't like how you're thinking. I will not talk to you unless you change the way you think. You sound exactly like that acquaintance of mine who found my channel.
Do not approach feminism with a hostile attitude.
How hypocritical of you. I've seen nothing but hostility from the vast majority of your movement. Only a very few people actually aren't, and the two main figures that I forgot were Camille Paglia and Christina Hoff Sommers. You will regularly attack people and slur them with men's rights activist is one of them. Even though I don't consider that a slur, you will use it as a slur to attack anyone who says anything remotely nice and positive about men's rights or anything negative against feminism, and you will call them misogynists. And you will generalise us, as I said before. So, to throw something back at you, stop being so hostile to anti-feminists and MRAs and people who aren't either, but disagree with you. Maybe then we'll talk.
Approach it with an open mind and a willingness to concede where necessary.
We do, but you don't want to hear what we have to say, which is why we're blocked on countless SJW and feminist accounts on Twitter and YouTube, and why you lot will also close your comment sections and disable ratings. Now, I don't want to hear this excuse of, oh, the harassment. No, you know damn well that is a minority of trolls, and you just don't want to hear us refuting your claims. So don't tell us to be open-minded when you yourselves are not open-minded.
Being anti-something is not a constructive way to talk about issues.
How so? Your entire movement is anti-misogyny and also anti-men, depending on which ones you are. So how the hell is that not counterproductive, but we are? That doesn't make any sense. If the women's rights movements in the early 20th century and the mid-20th century weren't anti-this, anti-that, it doesn't matter what it was. It could have been, anti people against giving women the vote, or anti-people who wanted to pay women less than men for the same job, same hours worked, etc. That would not have been counterproductive. That would have made sense. It was common sense. Jesus Christ, you have no self-awareness.
But you can be non-feminists in your own right.
Ah, I see what you want. You want us to be your version of what a non-feminist is. I get you now. I get you. But do you get me when I say that is not necessary and that's hypocritical? Because that would be like us saying, oh, you can be feminist, but we want you to be a certain type of feminist. We want you to be an equity feminist, like Christina Hoff Sommers, or like Camille Paglia. Not someone like you, for your example, or say Valerie Solanas or Jessica Valenti, etc., etc. You wouldn't like that, would you? Being told what to think in order to talk to someone, would you?
And some of you surely must recognise that the other two categories I'm about to address in your broader anti-feminist camp are either not interested in solutions or are far too angry or emotionally invested.
No, I won't agree with you until you give me actual citations on who these people are and what they think. Please, you're not psychic, I'm not psychic, and I'm inclined to believe that these people have already given solutions. You're just not listening to those solutions, so you think That there are no solutions being brought forth. Oh wait, no wait, it's not actually that. You just don't listen at all. You don't watch our videos. You just watch what we do on Twitter, or you might watch what other people make on YouTube. Like Kevin Logan, who will take us out of context. Like Christy Winters, who will take us out of context. But hey, you know what? Continue once more, my friend.
We have seen some movement on YouTube already in this regard, and I will be tackling issues related to this subject in a future video.
Jolly good. Jolly good.
Finally, be aware of the financial interests by some of those constantly talking about the dangers of feminism.
Oh, shock horror, anti-feminists want to make money off of YouTube because it's a viable career choice nowadays. Oh, shock horror. It's not like people like Jessica Valenti, Jermaine Gray, Valerie Solanas, Andrea Dworkin, people that you know in the SJW community like Jenny McDermott, Laughing Witch when she was making videos, Kevin Logan, all those others, plus a few of the big name ones who don't really get mentioned much, like Hannah Witten, Angry Aussie, etc. You know, they are allowed to make money off of feminism because to you that's legit. It's a legit ideology, but when we try to do something, oh no, that's bad, distrust these people because they're anti-feminists, they're making money, woo! We could label as that same thing against you, but only when it's absolutely obvious that they're shills do we label that. You just call us all as a snake oil salesman. When you have people like Anita Sarkeesian in your camp, please just be consistent and stop being a hypocrite, okay?
Many of you believe that feminists such as Anita Sarkeesian
speak of the devil,
use their position for financial benefit.
I'm going to show you a remix that I just finished this weekend and no one else has seen. One person has seen it. It's a soundtrack of one song, except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this. To me, the song is positive just because I've only contextualized it in a way to critique male domination in our media. And also video games, like I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads, and it's just gross. So hence this is my response to that.
Recognize that some of those constantly talking about feminism are doing exactly the same thing.
I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this. I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this. I'm not a fan of video games. I'm not a fan of video games. I'm not a fan of video games.
Whether it's a financial incentive or a desire to be popular, the primary motivation isn't the truth.
Citation needed, that's a logical fallacy there, but I forgot which one it was. But what I do know is you have no idea what motive these people have in regards to why they make the videos that they do. So please, don't chat shit about them. Don't just go and say these things about them and say it as the truth. Please, don't be a hypocrite. That's all I'm saying, basically.
It doesn't necessarily invalidate their arguments, but it certainly means that you will always receive a completely one-sided and wholly negative impression about feminism on YouTube.
Yeah, because if one were to watch feminist videos about non-feminists in general, let alone anti-feminists, we would find that the view that this person would be getting would be very negative and skewed. You can play at this game 101.
Whether you realise it or not, this continual reinforcement will make you less likely to see the other side of the argument.
Now you see, what we like to do is we like to put the sources in our descriptions so that people can watch the source material and make their own minds about it, you see. Unlike feminists who don't tend to source anything. They just say, look, that's misogynist, believe me, listen and believe. Well, we are like, well, here's our source, go watch it. And because a lot of your videos, because of this system, this method that we employ, tend to get a lot of dislikes, you call that harassment. Leafy is here, who's not actually a anti-feminist as far as I know. He just likes to take the piss out of everyone. He has been accused of harassment and bullying through simply putting someone's video in his description, and we've also been labelled it this way. ContraPoints has labelled it at Bearing, and pretty much everyone you can possibly imagine. So What are we going to do? Are we going to allow people to have their own opinions on the source material by linking it, or not? But regardless of all that, we let people have their own opinions. They can go and seek it out. They're not people who are drones who just listen and believe. At least that's what we think. If they want to find the feminist viewpoint, they can go and find it. I'm not saying that they can't, unlike you.
To the large and vocal minority of rabid anti-feminists.
Oh really? A loud vocal minority? Judging by your dislike ratios on your videos, I wouldn't call that a minority.
I'm sorry to say it, but many of you are younger, tend to lack critical thinking, are easy to manipulate, and are quickly triggered by buzzwords.
Oh wow, I seem to hear some condescension and assertions in what he is saying. Excuse me, but just because you're a young person doesn't mean you don't have critical thinking. Kristi Winters, you, Jenny McDermott, G O'Neill UK, loads of different people who have made videos on YouTube. Hell, Laughing Witch is probably the oldest one, apart from Kristi Winters. All of you, older people who have never shown an ounce of critical thinking. You all listen and believe anything you are told about feminism or people like us. For example, Kevin Logan found a rumour that she won head, which by the way the rumour was wrong, that she was actually 17 and not 24. And he listened and believed, although later retracted it because he got thrown under the bus, and told Jenny McDermott, that is, that this was the case, and she made a whole string of videos creating drama. Yeah, critical thinking skills. He couldn't even be bothered to go and check to make sure he was right. He just listened and believed, and she then listened and believed him. Yeah, sure. Brilliant. But hey, they're all older people, remember? Kevin Logan is approaching 30, she is in her 30s. Oh, and let's not forget that I don't think we're triggered by weasel words. What do you mean, triggered by weasel words? If anything, you lot are triggered by words like rape, anti-feminist, blah 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 blah. I've lost count of the amount of times you people are triggered by images and words that are in media. It's astounding. I've never seen an anti-feminist yet be triggered by a weasel word. Please, provide me citations on this.
You are angry, or at least look for reasons to be angry or to express anger online.
Citation needed. You cannot assert what we're thinking. You're not psychic.
But you also have some legitimate concerns, as we all do. The problem is, instead of addressing these concerns, you seem to think that feminism is the cancer causing all or most of society's ills.
Political correctness, the current violence happening at protests in America right now, Black Lives Matters, which is practically a hate movement and is affiliated with feminism. In fact, all of them are feminists. The Duluth model, the tender years doctrine, the fact that women get less time in prison for the same crime that men do. I could go on. Oh, let's not forget that the educational system is skewed entirely in favour of women and not men, when it should be 50-50. I could go on. It seems like a lot of those things were caused by one thing: feminism.
You really believe that some kind of victory should be won over feminists in a zero-sum fashion? From my perspective, I don't really want to smash the MRAs and anti-feminists. I want their issues to be resolved.
No, SJW 101, you have never ever shown in your comments and in your videos that you want our concerns addressed. No, you do not. Instead, you make propaganda videos about Milo Yiannopoulos and feminism, and you back up people like Jennifer McDermott and all the others. These people who give feminism a bad name, although let's be honest, most of feminism gives it a bad name anyway. Yeah, I could go on. You yourself are the problem, yet you're trying to make out that you are not, that you are somehow different. You are cut from the same cloth.
While you are railing about how bad positive discrimination is because of its discrimination against men, I am supporting the creation of jobs for all.
Affirmative action is basically quotas. They are not making jobs for all, they are making jobs for certain people in favour of other people. That's what affirmative action is. That's what quotas are. There could be a majority black nation that is very rich. And, for example, they have a white community that's poor, or at least not that poor, and then they've got an Asian community that's kind of like our Asian community, etc., etc., and they're forced to make quotas for those people. It doesn't matter what race you are or what majority you are, that those affirmative action things are called positive discrimination for a reason.
When you are arguing that court sentences for men are draconian, I'm already there, arguing that non-violent crimes should not be penalised with jail sentences whenever possible.
No, you're not. What have you done? That has nothing to do with the issue there. That has nothing to do with the fact that court measures are draconian against men. That has nothing to do with it. That's a false equivalence. We're talking about the gender gap. How a woman will be put in jail for less time. In fact, she might not even go to jail for the same crime as a man. For example, female paedophiles are continuously let off or given suspended sentences or a few months to a year in jail for doing the exact same crime as a male paedophile. Yet that male paedophile will get years in prison, sometimes even life if his crime was that bad. A woman, no. Slap on the wrist, usually. And their crimes continue to happen because there's no fear of any kind of backlash. And let's not forget that murderers can sometimes get away with it if they say that, oh, the person abused them, even if they don't have evidence. I could go on. But no, instead you slap this whole false equivalence about, oh, I'm in favour of getting rid of this sentencing for non-violent crimes. No, don't. That has nothing to do with it, and you know it.
While you are complaining that too many men live on the streets, I've been criticising government policy for allowing empty, vacated properties or not building affordable homes.
Show me actual examples of you doing this. You're just saying you're doing this and not actually showing me that you're doing it. Where's your citations for this? You keep saying you're doing these things, but like every other feminist, you don't have anything to back up that you're actually doing anything at all. We know what's causing male homelessness, but the problem is society doesn't give a fuck about it. So we're trying to raise awareness of it. And by the way, again, as usual, you're trying to raise this equivalent thing that you've done that doesn't really have anything to do with it, really.
Rather than identifying issues that people like myself support that could be beneficial for men, many of you would prefer to engage in ad hominems.
Citation needed. And by the way, we're not the movement that's calling people who disagree with them misogynists, right-wingers, etc., etc.
Which leads many feminists to believe that you don't really care about men's issues at all.
Disclaimer, I'm full aware of the ironic title. That's intentional. By the way, SJW 101, that is not the reason why feminists think that anti-feminists and MRAs, etc., and egalitarians don't care about men's rights. No, they say we don't care about men's rights for propaganda reasons. It's not ad hominems. This is your excuse. You have yet to show me any ad hominems whatsoever. Yet there's only one movement I know of that's actually using ad homs as an argument to discredit entire movements, and that is feminism.
Honestly, I feel sad for some of you. Whether it's due to desperation at your own personal circumstances, lack of real-life experience, or that you are susceptible to manipulation from e-celebs, you are unable to see outside of the anti-feminist narrative.
I think you'll find that we can, because some of us were in the other camp, some of us, not all of us, and we can see your arguments. That's why we're so good at debating them and basically tearing them apart. We can see it from your angle, we can see it from the neutrals' angle. It's yours who cannot see it from our angles because you shut yourselves off in echo chambers and hug boxes, putting your fingers in your ears and going la 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 la. We're not the ones who do that. We're the ones who favour open discourse. So there's only one side who doesn't want any discourse whatsoever. And this type of behaviour that you're doing, calling us all young people who don't have critical thinking skills and basically saying that we're brainwashed by e-celebs, this is part of the problem. This is part of the problem.
As long as you stay this way, it's not going to be easy to feel happiness and fulfillment in your life.
You're speaking as if we're perpetually triggered. I think you'll find that the only people who are perpetually triggered and cannot find any happiness in their life is your side, because everything is problematic. Everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you've got to point it all out. You're the ones who will see a billboard of a villain being villainous and say that's promoting violence against women, even though the same character being throttled will throttle men in their hundreds in the entire X-Men universe, both comics and films. I'm sorry, but we're fine. And you cannot assert that. So please, stop the projection, stop the asserting, and actually make some decent points. Because so far, I've seen no decent points whatsoever.
But let me say this. Your existence is proof enough that there are issues that need to be resolved. Some of you are disenfranchised, but you are looking in the wrong places to resolve these problems.
Oh really? Where should a man who has lost his kids, or a man who basically cannot marry in fear of losing said kids, or losing half his wealth, or anything like that, it doesn't matter. It could be someone who sees all the problems in the world. Why should they go to you, the person who subscribes to the ideology that caused all these issues? Why? Why should we go to you? You are the ones who offer no solutions to men's issues. You claim to do things, but you don't, while saying that we don't either, when we do, but you ignore them. Why? Why should we listen to the people who started it and the people who are stopping us from doing good work? Please, elaborate.
Last but not least, the anti-feminist YouTube content providers.
Oh well, instead talk about people like me, rather than actually tell us what solutions your side has. Typical feminist.
I am not referring to all of them. Well, what can be said about yourselves?
So you are referring to all of us. Are you going to name names?
It's evident that you know a good thing when you see it, because this gravy train has certainly been kind to you, hasn't it?
Jenny. Yeah, she's been kind. Not only has she doxed people who are on our side, who make videos, not only has she false flagged them, but also she's hacked their email accounts and hacked subsequently their Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts. Yeah, nice to us. And Kristi Winters totally hasn't been propagandising against us and basically spreading misinformation. And Steve Shives has been doing this exact same thing. In fact, you've all done something like that at some point. Some of you may not have doxed, but you spread misinformation. Some of you have doxed, but not necessarily spread misinformation. Or some of you have done everything. Yeah. Sure, you've been good to us. The only good thing you've provided is material. Oh, and maybe another thing, the destruction of your ideology. And basically, yeah, just those two things, really. You've given us material to do so. Thank you very much.
You'd be screwed if feminism vanished.
No, we wouldn't, because... No, we wouldn't, considering that Armoured Skeptic has done pretty well for himself, not always responding to feminists and social justice warriors, and there's always religion to bash, such as Islam, Hinduism, Sikhism, yes, even Christianity. There's politics that we can cover, there's pseudoscience, there's loads of things that we can cover. And to be honest, feminism, although a large part of all that crap, is not the only avenue we have of making content and basically being full-time YouTubers. There's other ways. Go along and say that feminism is our only bread and butter when it's not.
And we both know it.
No, you're asserting you're trying to assign much more importance than you actually already have. Please, you know damn well there are other avenues that all of us can take, because we're not all the same, we don't all think the same. There are other things that we are against, things that we are for, things we want to attack, things we want to defend. Again, you are the only avenue to make the kind of videos that we do.
Let's think about that. It essentially means that you have an interest in feminism continuing on a self-serving basis.
Well, no, actually. I don't necessarily require it to exist. I could go and attack religion. I could attack political people that I disagree with. Politely, of course. I can make videos on history. I can make videos on anything I want to. I don't need feminism so much. But because feminism is such an issue at the moment, I am making videos about it. Once the problem is dealt with, I won't need to be an anti-feminist anymore, will I? So I'll just go and find other avenues. And I will. I've already listed a few.
The more extreme feminism becomes, the more you will benefit.
You do realise the more it becomes extreme, the less you benefit, right? And the more we gain, because more people open their eyes, and the more people disassociate themselves, and the more the movement will fracture and disintegrate. That's all we want. Well, at least what I want. I can't say about other people. Some people don't want to see the destruction of it. They just want to see it reformed. And if we can do that, excellent. I don't mind that. But I can't see that. So I'd rather it, not have the influence it has. You keep to yourselves and stop trying to make society like your own little personal dystopia. Thank you very much.
With this interest, why would anybody suppose that you are interested in telling them the truth?
How is saying in almost every video that violence is not a gendered issue, that domestic violence is not a gendered issue, that crime is not a gendered issue, like rape is not a gendered issue? How is that not telling the truth? That is telling the truth. We are showing people what it actually is like. If anything, you are not by making everything gendered and basically just spreading lies about the MRAs and the egalitarians and the anti-feminists. There's only one side that's telling the truth here, and it's not you. And besides, it would help greatly if we didn't have this massive propaganda machine that has infiltrated the whole left-wing media and even the so-called centrist, non-biased media called feminism, who says to the public, who are spoon-fed this bullshit, that we are not for these rights, that we are hateful, we are bigots, we are extremists. It would be a lot helpful if your side and you on YouTube weren't spreading that shit. Maybe then people would see it, but then again, that would be bad for you, that would be inconvenient.
Isn't it logical that you will do all you can to find the most extreme examples of feminism and then present them to your audience as if this is commonplace, regardless of the truth?
Well, you see, the problem is most of you actually believe in this shit, so we're not actually showing the most extreme parts. We do like to, like TERFs and SWERFs. For those of you who don't know, TERFs are trans exclusionary radical feminists and SWERFs are sex worker exclusionary radical feminists. We have shown them, but they're a minority, so there's not a lot of them. We talk about people who are just the normal feminists on YouTube or in the media. They believe in stuff like toxic masculinity. They believe in stuff like the wage gap and paying men less than women or paying women more. Stuff like that. That isn't showing the most extreme parts. That's showing what you all believe in. You believe in patriarchy, this mythical godlike, devil-like figure that rules over you. You are literally conspirators. We're just pointing it out.
Looking at this from a left-leaning perspective,
as am I, but he would like you to think I'm a right-winger, funnily enough. Because you see, SJW 101, I actually voted left-wing in the last election, and I do make left-leaning videos. The thing is, I'm sorting out my own shop. I can't say the same for you.
It's the same old story. Those towards the top of the ladder, whether it's on YouTube or in society, have mutual interests. That interest is to sell something to the average Joe. Whether it's a message or a product is less important. What is crucial is that they benefit from it.
I'm sorry, but this Marxist bullshit isn't going to work on me. Nor is it going to work on people like Sargon. Nor is it going to work on people like, well, any of us really. Because that's not what's happening. Yes, some of them who are full-time YouTubers will be selling people a product. That's okay, is it not? That's just using capitalism, that's using the market. It's no different than the likes of bell hooks, like I've mentioned before. Anita Sarkeesian and Jim Sterling and all these other SJWs and feminists from selling their own works. How come what they can do is alright, but what we do is wrong? Why can't we make money off of this? If they can, why can't we? You're a hypocrite.
This is the cabal of popular anti-feminist YouTubers.
Even though we all know who they are, please just name names and stop being a coward and doing a teal day. And again, your side does the exact same thing. We're all doing it. We're all making money off of YouTube. We're all making money off of Patreon. We're all making money off of certain things. Okay, maybe not all of us are doing this for profit, but a lot of us are. Again, what is wrong with that? You're doing the same thing. Feminism has done this for 100 years. Why is it that us, the current crop of anti-feminists, suddenly start making money? That it's wrong. You cannot pull this. That is called hypocrisy.
That becomes more cliquish the more successful they are.
Yes, says the movement on YouTube that has loads of different cliques and are known for doxing, false flagging, and harassment if it is to be believed within their own ranks. So don't come telling me that bullshit.
That's not to say they don't believe some of the things they say, or even most of it, or that their arguments don't contain elements of truth. But the fact of the matter is that you, anti-feminist content creator, have very little that is positive to say.
What, you want me to humour you and say feminism is a good thing? That's literally all you said. I will pay lip service to the feminists who do good work. For example, the woman who's doing the documentary called The Red Pill. I forgot her name. Also, I need to correct some people's names. Ross Dunn it was. Ross Dunn is a good feminist. At least, last I checked, he was a feminist. His recent content looks less feministy, but that doesn't matter. Camille Paglia, who is my favourite, and Christina Hoff Sommers. I will pay lip service to these people because they do good work. Hell, even Erin Pizzey was a women's rights activist at first, before becoming more egalitarian/MRA. These people we will pay lip service to because they actually do good work. They are passionate about equal rights. I can't say the same about you and your cabal and the rest of the movement. That's why we have nothing positive to say about most of it, because it is all mostly negative with a few bright spots in between.
Both because if you decide to have the courage of your convictions, you are afraid that your audience will desert you, and because intellectually it is far easier to bottom feed on hot button topics.
Well, that is so ironic coming from a feminist whose movement currently attacks men for sitting, manspreading or talking, mansplaining or attacking billboards and pretty much anything really. Yeah. And see, we have the courage of our convictions, only it's not the way that you would like to paint it. You see, we put a lot on the line here. We could lose jobs, friends, anything over this. This is why a lot of us are anonymous. You don't stand to lose as much, if anything. So please, don't go asserting that we're afraid of losing our audiences because of this, that and the other. No, that's not the case, and you can't prove it.
I understand your motivations.
Well, that just means you're very dishonest, because you know what motivates us, yet you've been trying to paint us all as snake oil salesmen, people who aren't in it for the cause, we're in it for the money. You're a very dishonest man.
We all need to live, and we all need to feel like we are popular, or are doing something worthwhile.
Maybe you need to feel popular, maybe feminists need to feel popular, but I can't say much about other people from my side, or maybe even your side. I don't know if you lot want to feel popular. Certainly Jane McDermott wanted to feel popular. Logan wants to feel popular. But there's a few on our side who aren't interested in being popular. They're interested in debate. They're interested in putting forth their ideas. And I'm not seeing that from you. So far, anyway.
But I blame you for misleading thousands of people on YouTube.
Give me a citation. Give me evidence on how we have misled thousands of people. We're the ones who put our sources out there for them all to read. You don't. So please, how are we somehow misinforming people? If anything, you are misinforming people. You have misinformed people that Milo Yiannopoulos is a pedo apologist. You have misinformed people about harassment and all sorts. Look, we all know what you lot do. But you cannot even point to an example where we've done any of this. That is an assertion without evidence, and I'm just going to dismiss it. Hitchen's razor.
In fact, you have greater responsibility for propagating a culture of fear instead of offering people a truer, more balanced perspective.
Yet more projection, yet more lies. Again, prove to me, show me citations, because I've looked at your description, you showed nothing. Well, we are propagating fear-mongering. No, the only people who are fear-mongering are people who are saying there's an epidemic of sexual assault on campuses, when we know through government statistics and independent statistics that they're the safest places you could possibly be. Mainly because of these draconian things that they've done in response to these fear-mongering by... Well, it couldn't be us, because we're arguing the opposite here. Feminists, obviously. Let's not forget that they argue that women pretty much are, the ones who are most likely to suffer violence, etc., even though it's men, etc., etc. Yeah, we're the fearmongers. Right. Sure. Stop bullshitting us.
With the prospect of solutions to their problems.
We do. We propose, for example, that the law actually be the law and punish women the same as men. Make sure that the courts are unbiased so that men aren't being shafted in favour of women. We want to make sure that the rape laws in every country around the world are gender neutral. We've offered these solutions. You haven't. You haven't offered any solutions here either, but you don't have any. You just want the status quo.
I have more sympathy for a person who makes angry or abusive comments on YouTube because of the drip-drip effect of disinformation that you had fed them than I do for the conflicted feelings you might have in falsely serving entertainment as information.
What absolute horseshit. First, you cannot even prove that we have given these people misinformation because we haven't. We have sources from governments, Pew Centre, all sorts of different independent, verifiably reliable organisations. What have you done? You lot always show your own research, which is always biased and always terribly researched, yet we're the ones sowing disinformation. No, we're not. Please, if you can't prove it, don't say it.
Okay. Now, since I'd like for this to also be discussed outside of the social justice community, Noel Plum, Exiled, Woolly Bumblebee, Skeptor, JJ Talks, Kitty Corner, Teal Deer, and wait for it, Jenny McDermott, consider yourselves tagged.
Well, consider me crashing the party, SJW 101. It's just my style. Anyway, people, that's the end of this very long video. Sorry it's taken so long. I've had to take a few breaks and I've had a few delays, but it's now done. So, I leave you with this. Hashtag message to anti-feminist video bullshit. Yeah. You see, it's funny how they accuse us of using entertainment as information, yet they're ripping off that guy T's message to feminists thing. So, yeah. Talk about irony. See you later.